So today we are strapping in. We're doing a deep dive into one of the year's, well, most anticipated new TV shows.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
It's already getting massive buzz, huge critical acclaim. And it's from a creator who, let's be honest, his name alone guarantees quality. Psychological depth, too. Vince Gilligan.
Okay. The Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul guy. Makes sense.
That's the one.
So what's the show?
His new Apple TV Plus series, it's called Pluribus. That's spelled P-L-U-R, the number 1 B-U-S.
P-L-U-R-1-B-U-S.
Got it. And the premise, you said anticipated.
Oh, the premise is wild. On paper, it sounds completely audacious. But, in Gilligan's hands, it just lands. It feels immediately and almost chillingly relevant.
Okay, you've got my attention. Hit me with it. All right, picture this. Imagine everyone around you, your friends, your family, the whole city. Suddenly, maybe overnight, they all achieve this state of just terrifying happiness.
Terrifying happiness. How is happiness terrifying?
Well, it's this absolute joy, but it feels wrong, unsettling, unnatural,
Okay, I see. Like Stepford Wives level creepy smiles.
Exactly like that. And here's the kicker. What if you were the only one left? The only person still cynical, still prickly, still, frankly, unhappy enough to realize something has gone profoundly wrong with the world.
Wow. Okay, that is a hook. So you're completely isolated in the sea of bliss.
That's the core conflict, this intense, isolated struggle. And our source material for this deep dive is a really recent, very high-praise review from the BBC.
The BBC. Okay, so a credible source. What are they saying?
They're calling Pluribus flat out one of 2025's smartest shows, right off the bat.
High praise indeed.
And what makes the review so compelling is that it confirms Gilligan isn't just doing a sci-fi puzzle box. He's taking this huge concept, this happiness pandemic.
Right, this massive what if.
And he's grounded it in social commentary that feels really unnervingly timely. But it still has that signature Gilligan voice,
Yeah.
The way he makes the totally outlandish feel absolutely real.
That's his magic trick, isn't it? Taking the absurd and making you believe it. Okay.
Okay, let's unpack this. That's our mission today, right? To really dissect how Gilligan pulls off that blend, how he marries this high-concept sci-fi, this existential dread, with that deep, human, character-driven drama he's known for.
And we need to get into the protagonist, too, right? This lone cynic, Carol Sturka. Why is she the perfect anchor for a Gilligan story like this?
Exactly. What makes her tick?
Well, I think it's crucial to start with Gilligan himself. His whole approach. When you look at his work, it's like a masterclass in making the preposterous feel terrifyingly real.
Totally.
His storytelling, it's built on transformation, right? Taking an average person, someone relatable, and putting them through some extreme, often unbelievable catalyst.
And we know that formula so well from his big hits. I mean, Breaking Bad, Walter White.
The classic example.
Yeah, the whole idea, this meek, dying chemistry teacher decides he's going to become a meth kingpin. I mean, if you just read that synopsis cold, it sounds almost like a joke.
Right. Like, how could that possibly work?
But the way he developed that character, that intense focus on the specifics, the moral compromises, the slow slide, we watched it for 5 seasons and bought every single second. It felt inevitable.
Absolutely. He earns those transformations. And, the same thing applies to Jimmy McGill becoming Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul.
Another incredible arc.
Yeah, taking this kind of slimeball lawyer, as they called him, and making him an anti-hero you actually root for, despite knowing where he ends up, despite all his flaws. That's also a pretty outlandish concept for a main character.
You find yourself wanting him to succeed even when he's doing terrible things.
That's the Gilligan specialty, that huge, often dark character transformation driven by some extreme situation. And he always emphasizes the slow burn, the realistic process of moral decay, really.
So, applying that method to Pluribus, the conflict isn't going to be about crime, necessarily, but about something more. Existential, psychological transformation.
That seems to be the angle. And the setup, this happiness pandemic, it immediately makes you think of classic dystopian stuff, right? Literature, film.
Oh, for sure.
Which is why that genre mashup the BBC review talks about is so important for understanding the show's tone.
Right. They had a specific comparison, didn't they?
They did. They said the core blend is like George Orwell meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Wow. Okay, that's a potent mix.
It really is. And it's not just a casual comparison. The review suggests It defines the kind of conflicting dread the show creates. You get the sci-fi horror part, that external control, maybe aliens, maybe something environmental, stripping away who you are.
The Body Snatchers part, losing individuality.
Exactly. But then you layer on the political dread, the Orwell part, total conformity, everyone watching everyone, state-enforced uniformity, like in those totalitarian systems.
So it's hitting you from both angles. External threat, internal pressure.
Right. And the review points out something interesting. This kind of genre bending isn't actually new territory for Gilligan. It's more like a return to his roots.
Oh, yeah? How so?
Well, way before Breaking Bad, before Albuquerque became his playground, he was a writer on The X-Files.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that, of course. Mulder and Scully territory, right?
So navigating government conspiracies, paranormal stuff, weird phenomena, that's in his DNA. His ability to use sci-fi tropes, existential mysteries, mass behavioral changes, people facing these huge moral choices under insane pressure. He's been doing that for decades.
So this isn't him suddenly deciding to do sci-fi. It's him coming back to it with everything he learned making Breaking Bad and Saul.
Precisely. But what's really fascinating, according to the review, is that the show doesn't just stay in that heavy, dark, Orwellian or straight sci-fi lane.
It shifts.
Yeah, if it just did that, it might get too bleak, right? Or maybe too academic. The BBC review really highlights its tonal versatility, how it can shift between really different atmospheres, sometimes even in the same scene.
That sounds tricky to pull off, like walking a tightrope, writing-wise.
Yeah.
What kind of shifts are we talking about? What were the comparisons?
Well, they mentioned two shows that feel like they're on almost opposite ends of the TV spectrum these days.
Okay.
So sometimes Pluribus apparently evokes the vibe of The Good Place.
Really? The comedy? With the philosophy and the afterlife bureaucracy.
Yeah, think about how that show handled big existential questions. The rules, the absurdity of trying to quantify morality or achieve perfection. It treated really deep ideas with a kind of lightness, a wink.
Okay, so maybe Carol, our cynic, initially sees this happy world as just ridiculous, maybe even darkly funny.
That's the implication. The comedy would come from her friction, right? The only grumpy person trying to navigate this perfectly compliant, smiley world, the absurdity of it all.
Makes sense. What was the other comparison? You said opposite ends.
Right. Then the review says the show can just pivot hard and suddenly recall the feeling of HBO's The Leftovers.
Wow. Okay, The Leftovers, that's heavy. Profoundly eerie, emotionally devastating. That show was all about unexplained loss on a massive scale, right? And the isolation that came after.
Exactly. That's the connection. If The Good Place brings that lighter bureaucratic absurdity of trying to engineer morality, The Leftovers brings the sheer weight of fundamental human tragedy and being utterly alone.
So Carol's isolation isn't just, oh, I'm the only one who sees the truth. It's deeper, emotional, spiritual almost.
Yeah, the review suggests it's like she's lost everyone she knows, even though they're standing right there smiling at her. They've been fundamentally changed. That's a Leftovers kind of grief, isn't it?
Absolutely. The sudden departure, but for personality.
Right. And the review emphasizes the show's ability to shift easily between these poles, the absurdity and the deep dread. That's what apparently keeps it so dynamic and intellectually engaging. You're never quite sure where it's going tonally.
That sounds brilliant, honestly. Keeps you on your toes. And there was something else mentioned about the script itself, being self-aware.
Yes. This is a great detail. The script knows the kind of story it's telling. It knows the genre conventions it's playing with.
How so?
Well, the protagonist, Carol, she's kind of meta-aware. The review quotes a line from her that just perfectly grounds her resistance. She apparently says, quote, "We've all seen this movie and we know it does not end well."
Oh, I love that. So she knows she's in a potential Body Snatchers scenario.
Exactly. It's like a little wink to the audience, acknowledging, yeah, we know this setup feels familiar, like a classic Twilight Zone or something. But it signals that the show is prioritizing her human story, her reaction.
It stops it from just being a gimmick or a checklist of genre tropes.
Right. Gilligan's using the big sci-fi spectacle not as the main event, but as the stress test. The thing that pushes this character, who's already fundamentally contrary, to her absolute limit.
The sci-fi is the pressure cooker, but the focus is Carol's refusal to boil over. It's about her response to the catastrophe, not just the catastrophe itself.
Perfectly put. Which brings us right to the heart of it, the engine of the whole series. Carol Sturka herself.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's zero in on her. This cynical, contrary heroine, Carol Sturka, played by Rhea Seehorn.
Ah, Rhea Seehorn.
Anyone who saw Better Call Saul knows her as Kim Wexler. And her performance as Kim was just phenomenal. One of the best, most nuanced performances on TV in the last decade, easily.
Absolutely. She conveyed so much with just a look.
And the review really emphasizes how perfect she is for this role. It's like they're specifically tapping into that ability she has to portray incredible intelligence, intensity, but also make you feel sympathy for someone quite guarded.
Yeah, she's the ideal anchor, partly because Kim Wexler showed she could make immense emotional distance feel incredibly intimate, you know? We always felt like we knew what Kim was thinking, even when she wasn't saying it.
Right.
And the review goes into Carol's personality before any of this happiness stuff happens, her baseline. And that's key to why she's apparently immune.
She wasn't just like a bit skeptical and got lucky.
No, not at all. The review paints her as already being one of the least cheerful people on the planet, like fundamentally.
So her starting point is already way off the happy chart.
Way off. She's defined by this deep, ingrained refusal to engage with superficial positivity. The review uses words like cynical, acerbic, prickly, but, crucially, also sympathetically down to earth.
Okay, so she's not just an annoying grump. There's a core there we can connect with.
Right. She's complex. Her cynicism is like armor, maybe protecting something very human underneath. And that's classic Gilligan, isn't it? Making us root for these difficult, flawed people. Walter White, Jimmy McGill, now Carol Sturka.
And there's this detail about her job. The irony is just chef's kiss. It perfectly underlines her basic distaste for, like, manufactured sentiment.
You mean her being a novelist?
A romance novelist, a best-selling one. She turns out these popular books. The review even mentions a title like Blood Song of Waikaro. Sounds very dramatic.
Blood Song of Waikaro, that's amazing. And yeah, that detail is just genius. Because it shows she was already living this contradiction, right? She's literally selling manufactured sentimentality, commercial happiness in book form, but privately. She apparently holds her own readers in contempt, thinks they're a bunch of dummies for actually enjoying her stuff.
Wow. So she was already deeply isolated, intellectually anyway, selling a product she despised long before the whole world went Stepford.
Exactly. That cynicism isn't just a personality trait, it's practically her operating system. It's a protective mechanism.
And that deep-seated skepticism towards anything artificial, especially artificial joy, that becomes her actual superpower, her immunity.
That's what the review suggests. Her skepticism is her armor, and it ends up being the very thing that saves her, or at least sets her apart.
So when she sees this new happy reality starting, she's immediately suspicious.
Her reaction grounds the horror instantly. The review quotes her saying something like, just flatly, "Nobody sane is that happy."
Huh, that's great. That's her anchor, her internal compass in this madness.
Totally. And the review really hammers this point. Seehorn's performance is what makes this premise work. Could be silly, right? But her acting apparently makes it visceral, frightening. It grounds the plot in these visceral, fearful, determined reactions. We, the viewers, are put right there with her, in her isolated, terrified perspective.
So we're not just watching a story about conformity, we're feeling the panic of being the only one thinking critically.
That's the idea. We're locked into her fear, her determination, her suspicion. And think about the pressure on her if everyone else is genuinely happy, or seems to be.
Yeah, she must be constantly battling two things, trying to figure out what the hell happened to the world, and also maybe wondering, is something wrong with me? Why can't I just join in?
That internal conflict must be immense. Am I the sane one or am I the broken one?
Okay, so her cynicism is her defense. How quickly does this new happy world try to, like, break through that defense? Let's get into the mechanics of this new reality. The review and trailer mentions some specific, really creaky details, right? Very Orwellian stuff trying to crack her resistance.
Oh yeah, the confrontation sounds immediate. And close to home, it starts right in her own driveway.
Not some government agency swooping in, but neighbors.
Seems like it. The scene described has Carol being confronted by a half-dozen people in her driveway, maybe neighbors, yeah? And they greet her, get this, in creepy unison.
Unison, ugh. What do they say?
It's just, "Hey, Carol."
Oh, that's chilling. Simple, but the unison part, that's instant loss of individuality. An immediate collective front. That's the moment the threat shifts from just weird background noise to something targeted, right there on her doorstep. Neighborhood watch from hell.
Exactly. And Gilligan, true to form, anchors this completely bizarre event in a very specific, very recognizable place, a place his longtime viewers will know instantly.
Where is she? Tell me.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. Carol lives in a big house on an upscale cul-de-sac.
Albuquerque. Course. Breaking Bad territory. Better Call Saul territory.
The iconic setting.
Wow. Okay, even if the shows aren't connected canonically, using Albuquerque again. That grounds the madness, doesn't it? It makes the weirdness feel even more violating, because we know that setting. We know those ordinary suburban streets.
It heightens the sense of normalcy being corrupted, makes the horror of forced conformity feel much more immediate, more relatable. And yeah, the source definitely notes this geographical choice hints heavily at potential Easter eggs for the Gilligan faithful.
Always got to have those Easter eggs.
It's part of his formula, right? Make the extraordinary happen right next door in a place that feels real. But okay, the creepy unison neighbors, that's just the start. The normalcy gets shattered pretty quickly by the introduction of, like, the official Big Brother figure.
So it escalates beyond the neighborhood. This is where the Orwellian stuff gets explicit.
And personal.
Highly personal. The review describes a mystery man speaking directly to Carol, using her name, through her television screen.
Whoa. Okay, that's terrifying. A direct invasion of her private space. Not just a broadcast, but targeted communication. Exactly. And apparently this guy is speaking from the White House, which immediately gives this whole happiness phenomenon state-level authority. His tone is described as, soothing but ominous. Very Big Brother.
And what does he say to her? It's not just be happy, is it?
No, it's way more specific. It's a threat wrapped in fake reassurance. The quote aimed right at Carol is, "Rest assured, Carol, we will figure out what makes you different so you can join us."
Chilling. Figure out what makes you different. So her individuality, her critical thinking, it's not just dissent. It's framed as a problem, a bug in the system that needs fixing.
Precisely. It's a biological error, maybe? A sociological one? Whatever it is, it needs correction for the good of the collective. It's the total elimination of the self disguised as care or improvement.
So the pressure is immense from the neighbors, from the TV. But she's not totally alone, is she? The review mentions supporting characters, even though this story apparently travels globally.
Right. She's fundamentally isolated in her mindset, but not physically alone all the time. There are key relationships. But the new reality seems to warp those too, turning them into new forms of pressure.
Okay, who are they?
Well, first there's Helen. She's described as Carol's manager, but also her beloved life partner.
Oh, wow. Okay, so her closest person. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, because the conflict is built right in.
Yeah.
Helen has apparently succumbed to the happiness. Carol hasn't.
Oh, no. So Carol's lost her most vital human connection, even though Helen is right there, probably smiling.
Can you imagine? The review hints the love is still there, maybe, but it's strained, threatened. How do you relate to your partner when they've been fundamentally rewritten? The emotional gap must be huge. Intimacy replaced by fear? Maybe suspicion?
That sounds like a unique kind of psychological torture. The person you trust most becomes an unknowing agent of the system you're fighting.
Exactly. But then there's a second character mentioned, Zosia, and she sounds like an overt agent.
How so?
Zosia is described as a stranger who gets assigned specifically to Carol, her job, to cater to her every whim.
Cater to her whims. Why?
With the explicit goal of nudging Carol into happiness.
Ah. So Zosia is like the personalized conformity agent, a happiness handler.
Kind of. It's not overt physical force. It sounds more like passive-aggressive control. Mandatory, personalized therapy through niceness, designed to break down her dissent with comfort and manufactured contentment. Kill her with kindness, literally.
That shows how determined the system is, right? And the resources they have. They don't just lock her up as a dissident. They try to, bribe her emotionally with personalized service.
The pressure is immense. We're going to be so nice to you, Carol. We'll give you everything you want. So if you're still unhappy, well, that must be your fault, mustn't it? A choice that needs fixing.
Wow. Okay. This personalized pressure, this idea of fixing the individual, it leads us perfectly to the title, doesn't it? Because that seems like the most explicit piece of commentary right there in the show's setup. Plur 1 mammoths.
Yeah.
With the number 1 instead of the letter I.
Yes. That specific choice, the numeral 1, it's incredibly clever because we immediately think of the original Latin phrase, right? E pluribus unum.
Out of many, one. Yeah. The motto on U.S. currency. Foundational stuff.
And historically, e pluribus unum is supposed to mean a democratic ideal, right? A voluntary melting pot. Many different individuals, diverse thoughts, opposing views, all coming together to form one unified nation, but ideally still keeping their individual character.
Unity through diversity, basically.
Yeah.
The many are still valued.
Exactly. But by swapping the E for a 1 in Pluribus, the show does this really deliberate, really visual piece of satire. It suggests that whole democratic ideal, the many voluntarily uniting, has been forcefully collapsed into just a singular 1. homogenized.
So it's not una unity built from the many anymore. It's pluribus, the many being forced into one identical unit. It eliminates the pluribus part, really. Eliminates the individual dissent that Carol represents.
Precisely. The title itself is the ultimate metaphor for the forced conformity she's fighting. The system demands that the one dissenting voice, Carol, must be corrected, fixed, absorbed back into the collective. It twists that ideal of voluntary unity into mandatory, surveillance-backed uniformity.
It weaponizes the phrase. And it forces us to ask, what's the cost of that coerced unum? What's lost when you force everyone to be the one?
Which is the perfect transition, because it brings us right to the core philosophical question the series seems to be asking. We've got the premise, the character, this creepy world of enforced unity. Now, what's the underlying message? The social commentary.
Right. Carol's whole struggle, it forces us, the viewers, to confront this really uncomfortable paradox. Okay, seriously, what would be so bad about everyone being happy all the time? If the world is peaceful, productive, everyone's cheerful. Why is Carol fighting it so hard? It feels like the classic dystopian trap, doesn't it? Surface perfection hiding something awful.
Totally. And the review gives us a little clue here. It says, Carol definitely finds out what's so horrific about this perfect world.
Ah, so it's not just her being stubborn. There is something terrible under the surface.
It signals that the perfection is just a mask, yeah. It's hiding some deep structural flaw, or maybe some horrific truth that makes the price of universal happiness way too high.
So the show is clearly arguing that this kind of manufactured, enforced perfection, it comes at the expense of something vital, something truly human.
That seems to be the core argument. Things like freedom, obviously, authenticity, but maybe also those messy, difficult, but essential emotions, sadness, anxiety, anger, skepticism, critical thinking itself.
The things that make us individuals, maybe? The things that make us, well, human.
Exactly. And the series drives this point home, this meta-commentary, with this incredibly specific, really pointed little detail that appears right at the end of every episode.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
The source notes that the episode credits...
Wow. This show was made by humans in today's world.
Yeah, that hits differently, doesn't it? It really does. In this whole era of AI-generated content flooding everything, constant talk about the singularity, machines writing scripts or making art, replacing human jobs, that simple sentence feels like a deliberate, almost defiant statement, a flag planted for human authorship.
And the review says that line serves two distinct purposes, both connected to Carol's story.
Yeah, two deliberate, powerful functions. First, it's clearly, as the review puts it, a troll of the concept that artificial intelligence can create content.
Okay. A little jab at the machines.
Right. It's basically saying, look at this complex, messy, emotionally ambiguous story we just told you. A machine couldn't do this. This required human minds, human experience. It's a declaration of originality.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second purpose?
Well, that links perfectly back to the show's themes. The review says the phrase also acts as an apt slogan for the show itself.
How so?
Think about it. If the new happy world inside Pluribus is all manufactured, homogenized, artificial, like a kind of social AI designed purely for compliance and contentment, then Carol.
Carol, with her grumpiness, her flaws, her critical thinking. She's the only authentic thing left. She's the human element.
Exactly. She is the living embodiment of that disclaimer, made by humans. She represents the messy, unpredictable, sometimes unhappy reality of being human, resisting this machine-like conformity.
So it connects the anxiety we have about AI taking over creative work with the anxiety the show explores about artificial emotions taking over human society. It's saying human reality, with all its flaws and complexities, can't be sanitized or programmed without losing what makes it valuable.
Beautifully put. The review positions the whole series as this powerful plea for humanity and freedom of thought. It's arguing that genuine human experience has to include the difficult stuff, the sadness, the anger, the skepticism, that critical thinking, the willingness to dissent like Carol does. It's not just important for democracy, it's essential for defining what it even means to be human, especially when the world around you seems to value manufactured contentment above all else.
Because if you lose that ability to question things, even if they seem pleasant on the surface, you've basically lost your freedom, haven't you? You've surrendered your individual self.
That seems to be the core warning. Gilligan's using these familiar sci-fi frameworks, the Twilight Zone vibe, the Body Snatchers echo, to explore these really deep, really current anxieties we all feel about conformity, about authenticity, about whether genuine, complex, sometimes unhappy human emotion still has value. It's a masterful use of genre to sneak in some profound commentary.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, taking this all in?
Well, it means Vince Gilligan is doing what he does best, right? Blending the ridiculous with the relatable, anchoring it all with this fantastic, cynical protagonist whose very nature is her salvation.
And wrapping it all up in that visually clever title, Pluribus, that just screams forced unity versus the individual.
Yeah, the core tension we've pulled out from this BBC review is crystal clear. It's the collective demanding this manufactured unity, wanting to suppress the messy individual, versus Carol's desperate, probably dangerous fight for her right to her own complex, authentic, and yeah, sometimes unhappy reality. It's a big philosophical battle hiding inside a sci-fi thriller.
So here's something to really think about. If the world around you, maybe tomorrow, suddenly achieved this state of perfect, unyielding happiness, how quickly would you start questioning it? Or, and be honest with yourself here, would you maybe just turn inward? Start worrying about what was fundamentally wrong with you for not being able to just join in and feel the joy.
That's the dilemma Carol faces.
Exactly. Carol Sturka is determined to be different, fighting for her right to be unhappy, maybe even miserable. And that fight, that resistance against enforced bliss, is what makes this deep dive and the show itself so incredibly compelling.
It really puts the value of dissent under the microscope.
Yeah. That's the essential tension right there at the heart of Pluribus. When the whole world is smiling that creepy uniform smile, is your frown a sign that something is wrong with you? Or is it maybe the last line of defense for the survival of your authentic self?
A fascinating and profoundly important question for our times.
That's the question we'll leave you to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the knowledge that matters.